The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning once again. My name is Michael Wimberly, and once again, welcome to our Wednesday webinar. Once again, this one will be advanced viewing with Creo View MCAD. So the way, of course, this is going to go is how our normal webinars go. So basically a general review of ourselves, just some general view overall, and then the demonstration of Creo View MCAD. The agenda, once again, I'll give you an introduction to myself, give you a general topic overview, and then, of course, a demonstration. So for myself, I am a senior technical specialist here at Boundary Systems. I've been working with PTC products for, actually, I can change that to over 25 years now. I am a certified trainer for Creo as well as Windchill classes, and a certified implementer for Windchill as well. As for Boundary Systems is a PTC partner that has over 20 years experience in the PTC channel. We have technical specialists that, of course, have anywhere in between 10, 20 plus years of experience with PTC products, as well as being in the channel as well. Boundary Systems as a whole is actually located out of Cleveland, Ohio. We have satellite offices around the United States. I actually am out of Cincinnati, Ohio. That's why when you see my phone number, it'll be a 513 number. But also for Boundary Systems, we have several major accreditations. One of them, of course, is software reseller. So we can go in and sell you the software. We're a service provider as far as being able to install the software, technical training partner. Also, we have training centers, and I'll show you some of those in later on towards the end of the presentation. Of course, a maintenance partner, and then, of course, a certified Windchill implementer. We are currently supporting over 100 Windchill locations in North America alone. So we do have quite a few people that we're supporting on Windchill. Our overall mission statement is to have the most technical expertise on PTC products of any company in the world. We do that by basically having a wide range of technical specialists. Not every specialist knows everything. We do have some that are subject matter experts in certain areas, which allows us to have expertise in multiple areas. With that, it helps us to also understand our customer needs. So by having conversations with our customers, we can actually understand what they want and be able to give them the best solution for what they're trying to resolve, which is why the third point is we guarantee success of every solution. We actually go through and we work with you to make sure that what we're selling you actually does benefit you. It's not just something to go through and make money on. It's simply to go in and make sure that excuse me, that when you implement it, you get the best use out of it, which is once again where we go through, and our goal overall is, of course, to decrease cost, to go in and decrease time to market, and of course to help you increase your overall product quality. So once again, with a combination of all those different things, our goal is to basically make you better. What you're seeing here are some of our solutions that we currently offer. Of course, the suite of PTC products we offer. We also have Solid Thinking. We have Solid Modex, Xformation, eTrage. We work with ITI for different integration solutions, ZWCAD for 2D solutions, Keyshot, Noesis, as well as Mentor Graphics. If you have any questions on any of those additional products, or just to even know what they are, you can always visit our website at boundarysys.com, and we actually have information on those, or send an email to myself at mwimberly@boundarysys.com, or to our sales department at sales@boundarysys.com, or once again, you can contact us directly through phone. My number 513-415-0747, or sales being 440-274-0291. All right. So once again, the overall topics are going to be covered in this webinar is simply Creo View MCAD. So what we're going to do is cover some of the items that are specific to Creo View MCAD that aren't necessarily available in the Creo View Lite suite. I'm not going to cover everything, but I'm going to cover some of the things that help make MCAD a little bit better, or the show a little bit better. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and jump into a demonstration. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is go in and start up Creo View. Now, with this, I have it set up to automatically go through and choose an addition upon startup. So some of you, if you just have Creo View Lite, you may not have that, and you may have it go in and just simply start Creo View Lite. Creo View Lite does not require a license, so you can go through and just simply use that, whether you're using it from Windshield or you've actually downloaded it from the website, any of those. If you do use any of the other ones, such as MCAD, it does go in and require a connection to your license server because it is license-based. So I'll go ahead and start. And when you first pull it up, it will look pretty much the same as Creo View Lite, but up at the top you will see that it says Creo View MCAD. So we're actually in the MCAD version of Creo View. And then from there we simply go in like we normally would and go in and open up an item. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this chainsaw. And just like with our Creo View Lite, it goes in, because it's an assembly, it doesn't automatically load everything. So it allows us to go through and selectively add the items that we want to go through and load. So I can load them a little bit at a time to see them, or once again, if I check the box next to the top level assembly, it will go ahead and load the top level assembly. One of the things, of course, that is beneficial in using Creo View, whether it's Lite, MCAD, or whatever, it's a lightweight viewable of your overall assembly. If you notice, when I opened this up, it opened up pretty instantaneously. No, this isn't a super large assembly, but I guarantee it opened quicker in Creo View Lite than it does actually in Creo itself. So it is a lightweight viewer that you can go through and use. We simply go through and use PVZ files. I am actually in the standalone version of Creo View MCAD, as you can see when I went in and opened it, but you can open it directly through Windchill as well to go through and view the information. Now, one of the things that I will show you just briefly, I want to go through and show you a quick comparison between Creo View MCAD and Creo View Lite. So I actually have Lite open as well. And all I'm going to do is just simply show you some of the menus that are different, or some of the enhanced menus that are there. So once again, you can see that this version is Creo View Lite by looking at the header up at the top. And I'm looking at the actual same assembly. When we go through each one of them, for the Home tab, everything pretty much looks the same. Going across until you get over here to the display area, there's some additional display options inside of here, and I'll go through the headlight because that actually is lighting that we can go through and manipulate. And then we'll also see there's actually an appearance item over here as well that allows us to manipulate the appearance of individual components inside of the assembly that we're working on. In markup mode, we'll see some additional things such as construction geometry that we can go through and create as well. That's not available in Lite, but it is available in MCAD. So we can go through and actually add points, datum planes, curves, lines, any of those things to our actual MCAD, to our viewable. Additional tools, we'll go through some of those, but you can definitely see inside of here there's quite a few more things that are available in MCAD that are not available inside of regular Creo View Lite. Sectioning, I think that's pretty much the same between the two. And then of course animation, there is some additional tools to go in and do some editing of the animation inside of MCAD. So as I said, I'm not going to cover each one of those. I'm going to cover just some of the items. If you have questions on anything that I don't cover, then of course just send me an email, and we can kind of get you some information on any of those. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Home tab, and one of the first things I do want to show you is just simply displaying. So in normal mode, we still have our rendering mode where we can go through and change the display of the overall assembly. To go through and show the individual the overall assembly, manipulate it. Excuse me. But one of the other things that we can do is when I go through and select on an individual component, if I hold down the right mouse button, inside of here I have a local display style. So one of the things that I can do is change it from being opaque to being transparent. I can also go through and change its color. And it's just like changing the color at the inside of an assembly, where I would go through and actually change the individual color of that component at the assembly level. I'm not necessarily changing it if I open up the individual file itself. So I'm going to go ahead and change this local display from opaque to transparent. When I do that and I select in the background, you can see that that component is now set to being transparent. So I can actually go through and see through that part now without having to go in and turn it off to go through and see it. Now, one of the other things that I can do inside of here is, once again, holding down the right mouse button or selecting the right mouse button, in the bottom of that pop-up menu, there's also an Edit Properties. In the Edit Properties dialog box, when I go to the appearance, it actually allows me to go through and manipulate the amount of transparency that is actually being shown. So right now it's at 50%. I can increase it because I want to see through it quite a bit more. I just kind of want to see a general outline of it, so I can go in and change it. Let's just say 85, and I'll go ahead and close it. Once again, deselect, and you can see that it's very, very faintly there, but it's still there that I can see how it's actually surrounding my existing geometry or other parts. So once again, I'll go back into that again. I'll increase the transparency or decrease the transparency. And then over here, I can also change its color. This is the current color that it's set to. If I want to change it to a different color, I can go through and do that. Change it to blue or some form of blue, almost a purplish blue. And then once again, you can see that it changes that color as well. So it is transparent, but you can see the transparency is also purple as well. Go back into the properties. Now, there are some additional things that are available as well. One of those being a material. So I can actually go through and set a material for this file inside of the assembly. Once again, inside of this viewable. I'm not looking at the overall Creo file, so I'm not looking there. I'm actually looking directly inside of this viewable. And what I'm able to do is go through and set the material. So with this, I can go through and set a material. Now, if I have materials already set up, I can use those. I've actually created some to go in and have the appropriate densities. And even before I show you that, you can see down here at the bottom, it does show the mask properties. So it actually goes through and shows the mask properties of that individual file. So when I go through and change the material type from basically just having a density of that value, no specific material set, I'm going to change it to steel, which has a density of 7.85. When I do that, you can see that the mass automatically updates. So it's real-time calculation of the mass of this particular item. So as I go through and continue to change it from steel to aluminum, you can see that the mass gets lighter and lighter until I already go all the way down to nylon. And then nylon, once again, is quite a bit lighter. And we're talking about kilograms here that is actually go through and weighing this particular part. So we can see that it goes through and actually updates that mass based on the material type that you've set for that particular object. When you do mass properties of the overall assembly, it will go through and show that as well. So whatever you set, or if you want to go through and restore it to the original value, you can go through and restore that back to that as well. The other couple things inside of here is simply viewables. It shows the actual viewable that's being used, and then of course the actual location of the file in the overall assembly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select on this part. I'm going to go ahead and inside I'm going to go and open this into a separate window. Nope, sorry, not into a separate window, into a new window. So I'm going to go through and open this into a new window. And then once again, of course, I can manipulate this directly inside of here. So what we see here, once again, are just some additional tools. There's the coloring that I can go in and manipulate for this. And once again, this affects it at this location. So when I do change the color to there, when I go back to here, it's still at this original color. So once again, where I set it will be that specific view. So it's based on that viewable that I'm manipulating at that point in time. All right, one of the other things that we can go in and manipulate inside of here, because I'm in the part, I'll show you here, is the lighting. So right now it's using a single light to go through and view this. So you see the reflection over here in the top left. We can go through and change that. So it's actually using 2 lights, or you can go through and change it where it's actually going in and using 3 lights. So it's going in and bringing in light from 3 different directions on this. So as we go through and see it, we can see the lighting update on this as well. And of course, we can go through and customize that to specify, you know, the ambient, the diffuser, or the specular of that. I'll go ahead and change it back to just headlight, where it's just a single headlight coming at us head on. All right. Then we're in markup mode. In markup mode, once again, we have all the original notes here. So these things here we have in regular Creo View Lite, as well as the summary tools we have here. The only one that we don't have, of course, will be the mask properties. That's not available inside of Creo View Lite. It's only available here inside of Creo View MCAD. And then, of course, we have the ability to go through and create additional datum features. So construction, I can go through and create a point. And for that point, I'm going to come down here and I can go through and select on, it always wants you to select the part first, and I can go in and select on that edge. And right now it's going to go in and put it on the edge. I can go through and specify to put that point going right down the center of that. And there's that. So I can go through and use that. I can go through and create an axis. I can use that point itself as a reference, or I can use the body of the whole to go through and create the axis as well. So I can go through and use those, and then potentially use those as measurement references later on as well, to go in and measure for distances or things like that. So, and then of course I have the ability to create coordinate systems, datum planes, same general functionality for datum planes. I'm going to go through and create a plane, and I can go through and measure that through that axis, add an additional reference that is on that surface. Instead of going through that surface, I have the same options. I want it to be parallel to there, and you can see that it goes in and creates that datum plane through that axis and parallel to that surface. So once again, same general functionality that you have in Creo, you have that same functionality here inside of Creo View MCAD. So we can go through and use those things as well. Now, when you do create those items are available. You can see those when you go through and add your second column. So this is basically an upper datum column. Data column is what it's referred to, but you have view content, and you can see the points and the axes and all the datum features that you've gone through and created from there. We'll actually use this a little bit more when we go through and work in the assembly as well, on how we can go through and manipulate inside of there and add references there as well. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my home tab, go back to the original assembly. Now, inside the assembly, one of the things that is also additional is how we can search. So inside of our regular Creo View Lite, we simply have a find command, which basically gives us the generic functionality of going in and simply saying, okay, I want to find anything that is a cap, and tell it to go in and find all items part attribute name. Now what's going on? Okay, doesn't want to find caps. There we go. Go in and find caps. Go in and tell it to find all, and it goes through and highlights on the screen all the caps that it goes in and find. Now with the cap, I did add wildcard characters. It didn't need those. In the next area that I use, I will need the wildcard characters. But in here, we can just go in and type in the name, and it'll go through and simply find it, whether it's the part name or inside the attribute for it. I can go through and specify to go in and show only where it's a part of the name, or where it's part of the attribute, or once again, construction geometry only that has cap in the name. So we can go through and find all of that. That is once again just our general search. We'll have to go through and execute that search every time. We can also go in and use the actual search tool. Now with this, we're actually able to go through and define queries for our searches. So I've gone through and defined a couple of them just so you can see them. I'm actually going to go through and remove them initially. And now with this search, I can go through and define a search query. So the name of this search query is going to be cap. And what I'm going to look for, and as you can see, it already starts with an asterisk. So I'm going to go through and tell it to find anything that is a cap. Now I'm going to go ahead and select apply. And now when I select apply, it goes in and manages that query. And now that is a query that I can go back to. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to call it handles. And then I'm going to replace cap with handle. And then once again apply. And then that one will also be a second one inside of there. And then the last one I'm going to go in and do, it's going to be called links. And I wanted to go in and find everything that has link in the name. So basically I'm creating saved searches to go through and execute. Now each one of those, as I go back and I go to cap, apply, it goes into my search results in that secondary column, and now it shows me all the items that are caps. So when I go through and double click on them, it will highlight what they are on the screen. Same thing down here. I can go through and execute handle from here, or once again from there. Select apply, it goes in and finds all the handles. And then when I go in and I execute from here links, it now goes through and finds everything that is a link. And of course it's going to find quite a few of those because everything on this chainsaw chain are basically links that it will go through and find. But there are a couple other parts that have link in them as well, but of course they're related to the actual chain link itself. So once again, we can go through and save those to continue to go back to those. Now, one of the other things that we can do is inside of here, if we want to go through and group all those things so we can always go back and see what everything is that executes that, we can do this just like we do inside of Creo, kind of when we create a rule for a layer. We can go through and now basically have everything that meets that criteria inside of there. So I can go through and now save this as a group. Now what I'm going to do is, of course, save this as link. So this group name is going to be link, and it's going to go through and create this group that is link. So everything that meets that criteria is now going to be listed inside of here. Where'd it go? There we go. Same thing here. I can go through and execute, find that information, or once again go back to my search, go back and execute the search from here, update, and then save that as a group as well. So I can go through and continue to now be able to get back to these groups. Groups are simple. Once again, they're ways of going in and allowing you to see different groups of items, whether we do it through searching, or maybe I want to go through and group all my covers. So I can go through and select all these parts here. I can do it like so. And then I can go through, where's the create group? Of course, it's not going to show me. I lost my group. My apologies. There we go. So inside of here, I can go through and add everything that is selected to a group. Now it's not going in and showing anything. So I can go through, and I apologize, I did it out of order. I had to create the group and then add the items to the group. But now when I go through and actually select the group, I can see just those items inside of that particular group. So it's basically another way of going in and filtering, just like with the chain, it's going in and showing just all the items that have a link in the name of them. And as you can see, there's multiple pages dealing with that. So I can go through and see each one of those inside of here. So once again, I can go through and use the search here. Quick search is simply going in and doing it like a normal search from inside of here that I can go through and search for information as well. All right. One of the other things that we can do with searches as well is if we go through and we can actually color code our searches. So I'm going to go and select color code, and I'm going to go in and give this a name. I'm just going to call it color search, or just call it color. And I'm going to add a condition. Now, the conditions that I can add, I can go through and simply use my save searches. So I'm going to go over here, call this one, use the cap for the first one. And what I'm specifying here is the actual color that I want those things to be highlighted on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that one as the cyan color. I'm going to go in and add a new condition. This one I'm going to go through, instead of using the cap, I'm going to use handle. This one is going to go in and highlight everything in green. Once again, I can change that to some other color. And I'm going to go ahead and add the third one, which is once again going to be the link. And for the links, yeah, we'll go ahead and leave it at the reddish color. And then once again, I can go through and select apply. When I select apply over here in my search results, it goes through and shows once again the colors based on here. So this is in here because of the link search. This is in here because of the cap. And then once again, as I continue to go through, I can see additional ones that are there for handle and cap, so on and so forth. Now, currently, it is only highlighting things in the search results area. If I go to my results tab, I can come over here and tell it to go through and color code, and it will actually highlight on the screen the items that meet that color criteria. So I can see exactly what items meet each search result that I have inside of here. So once again, it makes it quite a bit easier to go through and see some of the items that we have inside of our assembly when we're going in and doing our simple search results. So this is a color-coded search, which once again visually helps us to see what we're looking at on the screen here. Even over here in the actual structure tree, we can also see the colors over here. All right, so there's everything inside of there with the search. Now, with that as well, we can go into the tools area. In the tools area, we can see that there's quite a bit of additional information. One of the other things that we can do in MCAD is actually go through and show a bill of material. So I can go through and select my bill of material. It goes in and opens up the bottom panel. Now up here is I'm going to go through and specify what it is I want to go through and show. Do I want to show just parts? Do I want to show assemblies only? Do I want to show top level components only? Everything flat or everything hierarchical? However I want to go through and display it. So I'm going to go ahead and say parts only for the first one, generate the BOM, and there you can see it just simply gives me item numbers, and it goes in and shows me the quantity of each one of them, and then of course the name of each one of them as well. So this shows just the top level, or basically all parts. Is not showing any assemblies inside of here. I can go through and change that and say assemblies only. Once again, generate it, and now you can see that once again it's going in and showing just assemblies, no part files. We can do top level components, so it's going to show everything at the top level, whether it's a part or an assembly, and it'll go through. You can see there's a combination of assemblies and a couple of parts at the top level as well. And then once again, all flat, What that basically means is showing everything, and it's just giving item numbers. So it's showing how many items it is, and then of course the quantity of each one there. And then the last one does the hierarchical. So it still shows everything, but it shows basically the level that it's at. What that does, it changes the item number. So you can see everything. Okay, this is level 1. Then you can see that this is actually a sub-level. This is a sub-level under the sub-level, so on and so forth. And then underneath there, there's item, 1.1.1.1.1. There's 1.1.1.2. So basically, this is the second item at that level. And then there's sub-assemblies, so on and so forth. So you can see it breaking down based on sub-assemblies as well. So when you do look at those here, that is an assembly. And then those are the parts underneath that assembly. And then once again, you'll go to different individual parts as well until you get to another sub-assembly. Sorry, there, and then there's the sub-assembly items underneath there. So there's your structure, your hierarchical structure of all the individual items. So it shows all the items, but it also breaks it down so we can easily see sub-assembly information. And this structure itself can be exported. So I can go through and export that, to go in and add basically a comma separated file, basically an Excel file that I can go through and export that as. So I'm able to go through and do that too. All right, go ahead and remove that for now. All right, one additional or one other tool inside of here that we can go through and use is, I think is pretty nice, is interference detection. So you can actually run interference checks here inside of your Creo View viewable. So we're not, once again, inside the top level assembly. So I can go through and give this a name. I'm going to go and call this, just call it check. And I'm going to go through and tell it to do more of an accurate check. I do want to check for interference, and I can specify how much interference is allowable. I'm going to basically say there's no interference that's allowable. And then down here, I can go through and specify what it is I want to go through and show. So I can go through and basically have it go in and load, show just the items that are as visible on the screen. So if I opened up a sub-assembly or just a smaller portion of that, it's just going to run the interference based on what's on the screen. This will show everything that is loaded, basically everything that is actually displayed, whether it's in the sub-level or not. Once again, the entire structure, or I can go through and select individual parts that I want to check interference between. I'm going to go ahead and basically tell it to show everything that is visible, tell it to go through and calculate. Now you can see at the bottom, it is calculating the interference of the entire assembly. And then once it's completed, it will give us a result of that interference as well. And it tells us that it found 7 interferences. I'll go ahead and select OK. And you can see it is highlighted on the screen, the items that are actually interfering. So I can go through and select on those and go through and see on the screen what's interfering. Now, it is going in and showing a little bit more information that I want. I want to filter it down, so I'm just showing the items that are actually interfering. So inside of the model display area, I'm going to go in and tell it to go in and display just the selected parts. So turn off everything else and allow me to see what's interfering. And as I go through and select on the different ones, it will allow me to go through and see the envelope of what's interfering. So we can see that these fins here are actually interfering with that plate, and the same thing, sorry about that, over here, there's actually interference. That's where it has that box as large as it does. So it goes through and shows the amount of interference that is occurring inside of their bearing. And also, for some of them, it can go through and show the volume of interference. Some of them, it can't go through and show. You can see that those are bearings that it goes through and shows interference between. And then once again, just additional parts. So we can go in and run an interference check right here inside of our top level assembly. Or I should say inside of our viewable, inside of Creo View. So once again, we're not inside of the actual Creo itself. And I just said no to go through and keep that interference. So you have that. With the assembly, we can go through and do an actual assemble in. What you're doing is manipulating the movement of some parts inside of the assembly. What you're also able to do is go through and add items to the actual structure itself. So we can edit the structure. This is once again something you can only do inside of Creo View MCAD, where I can go through and delete viewables out of here. I can go through and add a viewable. I can create a child part. I can branch off of it. So I can go through and manipulate this actual structure to go through and add additional information to it. So it's actually pretty powerful that we can go through and do that. And what we're adding is once again an additional viewable inside of here. So we are able to go through and do that as well. I will go in, edit, design check. I'll come back to that in just a moment. I will, at this point, I do want to open up another assembly. And I'll just open, and the other assembly that I want to open is this engine assembly. Nope, I don't want to save the groups. I'm going to remove this bottom section as well. So inside of here, still in once again our MCAD, which is a different assembly. So what I want to do now is I want to go in and basically edit the structure. So I'm going to select on this engine, and I'm going to go in and edit the structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and now add a viewable to this. So I'm going to select add viewable, and what I want to go in and add, there's an engine block front 3 that I want to go through and add. So I'm going to go through and select that. Now that engine block front is here, and it actually once again located exactly where I needed it to, once again because I brought it from this assembly itself. Now, so it is actually going in and showing. Now, the thing that's beneficial that I can do is with these, this is a newer version or an updated version, I've just added it. I can now do a comparison, and I want to compare the current engine block front with the one that I just added. Now the base part is the same, but the viewable, of course, is different. So I'm going to go through and compare. It's going to line up the coordinate systems right on top of each other. And once it goes through and calculates, it says it does see differences between those two parts. So this is one way of seeing, okay, here's one part, here's another part. And if we want to go through and verify updates, so I want to make sure that, okay, these were changes that were supposed to be done. I can go through and use an old viewable to go through and verify that the changes to this part was done accordingly. So once again, it tells me that they are not identical. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And then there's my geometry compare inside of there. And I can go through and basically tell it to isolate the parts. So I'm only seeing those two parts. And I can see on the screen the two items that are actually highlighting. So I can see it's showing everything that they have in common. I just want to see what's different between the two. So turn off all the geometry, but show me the items that are different between those. So this geometry here is different, and that hole is different. So I can go through and see that as well. So I can go through and show what's added additional material, or it's going in and removed material. So I can go through and toggle them on or off. So show me something that's basically made it bigger, or something that's made it smaller. And that's what those two things are doing here. So I'm able to go through and compare between the two to verify that, yes, based on the items that we were supposed to be doing, this was actually done appropriately. So I can go in and say, great, close that out. No, I don't need to go through and save that. And now I'm back here again. And now with that, I can go back into my tools, edit the structure, and then I can actually go in and delete this viewable. So it will be deleted. So it's not, the viewable is not actually there anymore. Once we go in and exit, it'll actually remove it from the display. So it won't be a part of the structure anymore either. So we'll go in and remove that. All right. Now, with that, one of the other tools that are available. So we've talked about before, and we've pushed kind of to go through and do your markups inside of Creo View. So I know a lot of people do red line markups still on PDFs or things like that. But as you can see, there's quite a few tools here that will allow us to do markups directly inside of Creo. So we can go through and add notes. We can go through and do measurements to make sure things are appropriate, make sure the mass is set appropriately. There's a lot of things that we can do. One of the things that is also beneficial is once we've gone through and set these things up, we can now go through and specify a design check and verify that these items have been checked. So I'm going to come over here and select on design check. And then what I'm able to do is go through and specify whether or not an item has been checked, it's approved, whether or not it's currently in work, or whether or not this item has been rejected. So I'm going to go in and select on that one. I'm going to go ahead and say that that item has been approved. There's a tag for that one. I'm going to come back here to this one and say this has also been approved. This here, this one is currently still in work. So that one is still set to there. And now this item, we can come over here and select as being rejected. Now with the rejected, one of the things that we can also go in and do is add a note. And I can go through and specify why this item has been rejected. The main diameter is not correct. And material needs to change. So I can set that up, go and select that up. Now I have that note that is now available for this. So I've gone through and set up this design check on those couple of parts, close that out, great. Now anybody that comes into it can go into design check and do a review. And now we can go through and see what's approved, what's not approved. And once again, this has a non-approval. If I just simply hover over it, it tells me what the actual issue is. And of course, I can go in and double click on the note and it'll go through and show me what that information is as well. So this is another way of going in and saving your different annotation information that you can go through and now store inside of your model. So it makes it quite a bit easier and quite a bit useful, more useful to go through and now go through and integrate this information directly inside of Creo View. Once again, these are some of the enhancements inside of Creo View MCAD versus what's inside of Creo View Standard. I'm sorry, Creo View Lite. Lite doesn't have some of these tools. You can still do markups inside of there, but some of design checking, mask properties, interference checks, things like that, even changing colors of components, that is strictly inside of Creo View MCAD. So in Creo View, if I want to go through and look through that, I would basically have to go in and turn that off. But I have the availability inside of there to go in and change the display of that to being transparent. And then, of course, editing the properties to go through and make it transparent so you can see through it even more. So there's a lot of things that can be done inside of here as well. So there's a lot of functionality that can be manipulated. One last thing that I will do inside of here, and that is underneath here, we can go through, where did my explode go? I lost my Spark explode. My apologies, I lost the command that I was looking for. Oh, it's not in this assembly. I don't have it set up properly. It's in the other one. My apologies. Let's go back to here. Pull everything back on. All right. So this one actually has an exploded view inside of it. I don't have it. The other one, I didn't have one inside of there. So I can go through and use these predefined explodes. So I can go through and explode it. You can see that it actually goes through and shows all that. This explode state is actually from the assembly. So this is actually something that was used inside the assembly that can be used as well. You have a default explode as well. As you can see, that's not nice as clean as the other one is. It does go through and try to do things based on axial explosions. And of course, we can go through and restore everything back to its original location. One of the other things that we can do with that, and it's still not showing. With our simple explode, we can go through and explode the items, dragging them like we normally do. Pick the individual items, drag them, move them around, however you want to go through and manipulate them individually to go through and update. And of course, if you want to keep it, great. If not, of course, put everything back to where it was, or you can put individual components back to where they were. I'm still not seeing. There it is right there. Smart Explode. With the Smart Explode, what it actually does, it goes through and explodes everything for you. So I can go through and select on individual components that I can go through and tell it to go through and explode, add selected items, and it goes through and now explodes them out. So it does it for you. Now what it's doing when you do a Smart Explode is it's going in and moving your components, so basically the actual boxes themselves don't actually go through and interfere with each other. So I'm going to go through and change the direction. So instead of exploding in the Z, I'm going to explode it in the Y direction. So I'm going to go and select on this handle. I'm going to go through and actually select that and that. I'm going to go through and add those items. And as you can see, it goes through and explodes them both. So once again, what it's doing is going in and exploding them so that their boundary boxes are outside of the actual geometry of the model. So as I go through and add additional items, it will continue to go through and move them, and based on their position in the assembly, you can see it moves it up above or below what was already there. So I'm going to cancel that once again, go back to my Smart Explode again. Now, one of the things that I want to do is with this, I want to go in a Y direction, and instead of going top and bottom, I want everything to go in one direction. So it's going to go in the plus direction for the Y. So I'm going to select both of those handles again. I'm going to go through and add them to explode. And once again, you can see they now both explode in the same direction. Select on that one. Once again, add that. And you can see that it brings it up above. As I go through and select here, it will go through and adjust. And you can see that they adjust with respect to each other. And even when I go through and select on the components on the bottom and explode those, it will once again maintain its relationship in the assembly with respect to the overall parts. So I can go through and select on the individual items to go through and manipulate. I can come over here and select on individual handles. I can select on individual parts, select on the chain, and actually go through. And with that, one of the things that you can do when you select on an individual part or an individual chain, you can actually use your up and down arrows to cycle up and down inside the model tree, or once again, select on the tree itself and explode that as well. So it does still clear that geometry when it goes in and do it. So it still goes through and explodes your assembly. It just goes in and does it, so you don't have to go through and pick and drag everything. It will continue to adjust itself as it goes through and explodes the remainder of the assembly components. Now you still have the ability, of course, to still go through and move them a little bit further up or down as you want to go through and update the geometry. And now you have your basic exploded view. So Smart Explode is another way of going and exploding out an assembly, once again, without having to go through and you manually dragging it. You're just simply selecting those individual parts and telling it to move them. And it goes through and separates them out, gives you a nice flow for your assemblies, for your exploded states. All right, so at this point, I will conclude this demonstration. I'll restore everything back to normal, and I will go back to here. And once again, that concludes the demonstration. At this point, if there's any questions, you can go through and enter them into your webinar box, and I can go through and answer them. One of the questions that came in says, does design check require an additional license beyond MCAD? No, it does not. You can actually go through and use that in just your MCAD license itself. The next is what professionals typically need the functionality of MCAD instead of Creo View Lite. Honestly depends on how much work your checkers do. Or you can use it for design reviews. So let's just take, for instance, and I'll go into Windchill. When you go through and you're going through your change process, and at the end of the change process, you have the actual change notice with the change task where the actual work is being done. So the person that's actually checking the work can actually go through and now use MCAD, or I should say Creo View MCAD, instead of using a license of Creo. So instead of having to go through and open up Creo, they can actually use Creo View MCAD and basically do their work. So that's one of the ways that you can go through and use that. And once again, of course, a Creo View MCAD license will be somewhat cheaper than an actual full Creo license. But the individual that I look at using this will be more of as a checker. I'm a manager, somebody that's kind of trying to do a quick review of something inside of, or even a design review. So those are the things that I say that I would think for that. Can you compare drawings? Once again, revision to a previous revision. I think you can do drawings. I think you can overlay the drawings to actually go through and see what the differences are between those two drawings. I don't have that actually set up currently, but I'm pretty sure you can go through and actually see what's the differences between the drawings. And then the next one is interference check needs an additional license. No, it just needs the MCAD license. So if you have a license of this MCAD, Creo View MCAD, then you can do the interference check. So everything that I've shown you is with your standard MCAD license. So that is available with just your MCAD Creo View license. All right. Any additional questions? I hope I've answered everybody's questions okay. If so, next thing I want to talk about is simply upcoming events. So we continue to have our webinars. So as I say, every week we'll have webinars. Some weeks we'll have 2 of them. So you have multiple to choose from. So you can go through and actually visit our website to go in and see the different webinars that are available, what's coming up soon. You can also go and look at our training schedule. We have training classes that are running. You'll also see inside of there that you'll see what's guaranteed to run and what's not guaranteed to run. So some classes are guaranteed because we have the proper number of people, or something that we haven't run in a while, and we want to go through and make sure that we do cover those people that want that particular class. So we have gone through and guaranteed classes as well. And then, of course, for any additional information, you can, of course, contact me directly through for any technical questions. Once again, reach me by email or phone. Also, sales, you can also reach them by email or phone as well. Oh, real quickly, there was another question that came through. Any cross usage with Creo Illustrate? That I am not 100% sure of. I'm not sure if they talk to each other. I would say I don't see why not, but I can't guarantee that. So I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to go in and contact one of our SMEs on something like that to see if there is a communication between Creo View MCAD or Creo View period with the actual Creo Illustrate. That I'll have to double check on. All right. And then once again, if you do want to go through and contact us, once again, directly through email or phone support, you can also go through and send a email to our support team through support@boundarysys.com. We also have a ticketing system. So you can go through and submit a ticket as well. To get to that is actually support.boundarysys.com. It will go through and have you register who you are, of course, your company, if you're not one of our customers already, and then you can actually go through and submit a ticket, and that will go to our support team. So every week we have someone that we've designated as what we call Engineer of the Week, which will actually monitor all those that come in, emails as well as tickets that come in, and if they can go through and answer those, they will go through and do that. If they need to go through and pass that on, they'll pass it to one of the other SMEs that's available or that's basically in their particular wheelhouse. So it is continuous that we go through and support our customers to make sure that questions are being answered appropriately. And of course, for any information on us, definitely visit our website at boundarysys.com. You can always go through and find us there. I'm actually pulling it up right now. Sorry. So you can always find us on our website. And then, of course, inside of here is where you can go through and find our training information, our schedule, our locations. We have training centers in multiple states, multiple locations. So you can see there, including Canada, Romania, and India. Orlando, whenever you're ready to go to Orlando, let me know. I'll make sure I'm teaching the class because I would like to go as well. Events coming up. We don't have any hands-on workshops, I don't think, scheduled just yet. But we are going to get them going soon. Webinars, once again, to go in to see any additional webinars that are coming up. And then, of course, customer support information, our services that we have. This is where you will go through and find additional information about some of the other softwares that we support. And continue on. So, once again, a lot of information. Visit our website. We also have a YouTube page. So you can go to YouTube and search on Boundary Systems. You can go through and find our page there. And all the videos, all the webinars that we actually hold are basically posted there as well. So you can always go back and revisit these at your leisure to go through and see any additional information that you may have missed, or just to recap the webinar itself. So once again, I want to thank you for your time and have a great remainder of the day.